I would say the third bullet point is always like never tends to be explicit. It requires extraction of more implicit details before development can happen. So if the first two bullet points requires explicit points and then you find the implicit points from the explicit point, right? The third bullet point doesn't even have an explicit point. You must first find the implicit point and then you develop another implicit point. So for example, suggest the challenges and rewards of living and working at an Atlantic base station. They will not tell you that. So I would say that this is the first implicit thing. How do you find the challenges? You need to look into the wording, you need to look into the language, you need to look into whether it is like leading towards a challenge, and then from that challenge you develop an implicit reward that could come. Alright, so if they want a solution, you must determine the problems before you can advise. So for example, if they ask you for solutions, you cannot just go in there for solutions. You must first find the problems first as the first implicit point, and then you develop the solutions from there, right? So same thing here. Find the challenges first, and challenges will be more difficult to find, but it is in the paper. Please don't come up with your own challenges. It's 100% in the paper, even if it's more implicit. Then from there, you find the rewards within the challenge. All right? Cool. So 5, 5, 5. Right. So some of you mentioned that you struggle to inference effectively. So I think that the inference really comes down to like whether you understand these things or not. I think that all these 3 bullet points come with information categories, which means that, for example, here, different kind of jobs available. I need to summarize it into something more understandable. For example, like the more common will be advantages, disadvantages, details, challenges, rewards, outcomes, consequences, feelings, thoughts, recommendations, suggestions. So these are really common information categories. You need to find what kind of information category is required from this, and it'll make it easier for you. Like for example, this is what jobs, right? Literally look for jobs, okay? And then what details they involve means you look into the activities, you look into job descriptions or things the job involves, you know? So you need to like do that first before you can have more accurate assessment of information. Here we expect from day-to-day life, which means daily routines and rituals and requirements. That's how I understood it, and then first arrive, settled in. So what is the first daily routines you need for when you first arrive? Daily routines you have when you first settle. So once you do that, it's a little easier for you to categorize information. Someone asked, what do you mean 5, 5, 5 as in 5 points of each bullet point? Yes, correct. 5, now you need to find 5 points for each bullet point. Maximum and minimum. Sometimes you can go for 6, but I would recommend that you merge the stuff. Sometimes you can merge stuff. 5 is the hallmark you want for A or A star. Introduction, 3 bullet points, ending, 5 paragraphs. But the introduction and ending are really, really short. 5 paragraphs. Yes, you must analyze what kind of information category is required of the bullet points for you to be effective as you search such things. Like that's why it's so important that we have this entire page here, because if you don't, then you don't know the perspective, you don't know the outcome of this, all your developments and your inferences and your evaluations might be very off topic. Third bullet point is finding the first implicit information they need, and then developing the second information. Implicit information means that it's not directly stated. Like for example, challenges, you will not see them saying, oh, the challenge of this work is this, the challenge of work is that. They'll just tell you things like, for example, the snowstorms are hectic, very intense here, or the food usually is the same most of the time. They won't say, I hate that there's no food, no diversity. They will say the food is the same most days. So they'll phrase it like that, and from there you have to imply and inference that this is probably not a good thing because you don't have food range, you don't have food choices, you repeat the same thing all the time. And from there you can ask yourself what the reward is. Maybe it means that you don't be a picky eater lah, something like that lah. You don't be a picky eater, you try to do your best with like making the best of the situation lah. Right? I'll put this reference into the shared document that I just shared you guys so that you can see it. Yes, 5 bullet points all the time. Yes. Okay. Would the 5 points just be like job 1, activity, job 2, activity up to 5 jobs? Yes, 5 job activities. No, 5 job available, and then from there you need to, every time you do a point, explain the activity. 1 point, explain the activity. So 5 jobs, and the activities will also be 5, but they're linked together. So you don't have to write 10 different things, because it's just the implicit points to help you explain and develop the point. So 5 jobs, and then 5 activities like linked together. Something like that, yes, but I wouldn't call it 15 points and 15 explanations. That sounds very lengthy. Like 5 main things in each bullet point, right? So I would say the job and the activity is one thing completely. 2, 3, 4, 5, you know? The point is still in the text, so we just need to use more time to find it. Yes, Hansi, correct. It's all in the bullet, it's in the paper. You just need to be careful about what you need to find. So challenges, you need to be more careful about how implicit it is, like what implies the challenge and everything. All right, cool. For A1, job and activity, then do we still need development? Activity basically is the development. So when you do the activity, you need to develop it by developing what you might have to see for that job. For example, what might be things that you need to also do within the job itself, you know? Like more implicit details. That's usually development. So that will be more retrospective development where you look into things that are already there rather than things that are new.